What's up, Internet? You're tuned in to episode 52 of Nintendo Noise, Flip Screen Games' weekly Nintendo podcast. I'm your host, Pete and Bessie, joined as always by my very good friends and co-hosts, Mr. Stephen Radford.
Hello, hello.
And Mr. Chuy Plays.
Bye, goodbye.
Unfortunately, we made the announcement, right? Sierra's a full-time host of Nintendo Noise. If you didn't catch all the news from our birthday stream that we had this week, go and check the VOD up on today. You can go check out the direct that we made on our current channel, the one that you're on right now, if you're on YouTube. But we also have our new channel, Flip Screen Live, where you can catch all the VODs of our Twitch stuff, and we have the entire stream over there if you want to go watch it, where we announced a couple new things, including that Sierra is a full-time host. We have a new podcast launching this week. Lots of fun stuff. But of course, she's not here. So unfortunately, timing on that one just we're nothing if not timely over here at Flip Screen.
Yeah, well, I think we can blame Nintendo somewhat as well, because we were planning on recording on the Tuesday, and then they obviously announced the Splatoon Direct for the Wednesday. Sierra couldn't make it, unfortunately, but she'll be back next week.
They're all about those Wednesday Directs these days.
Yeah,
I know.
Good thing we record on Tuesdays. It's really great. It's
Yeah.
really super, super cool and convenient for us that they keep doing that. Make directs come out on Tuesdays. Thank you very much, Nintendo. But anyway, Sierra will be back next week. So make sure to go give her a warm welcome if you haven't already. Go check out all the announcements we made. We got some cool stuff coming. Thank you to everybody who came and hung out with us. We planned on doing 2 episodes of Nintendo Noise this week, but instead we basically just did a long freeform podcast where we talked about like Guy Fieri and a lot of other stuff. And Steve did an American. Yeah, Guy Ferrari. Steve did an American accent. The rest of us tried to do British accents. It was a really good time. So while you won't get to see Sierra on Nintendo Noise this week, you can go watch that hot nonsense over on Flip Screen Live if you want to go check that out. So
it's worth it just for the Xenoblade accents that everyone had to do. It was really fun to hear the Xenoblade voices.
We gotta clip out Sierra trying to do that, because that was just one of the funniest things.
Oh, it's already in the Twitch clip.
There you go. There you go. So go check all that stuff out. But we've got a jam-packed episode for you today. Of course, Nintendo dropped the Direct for Splatoon 3. It was a meaty one. 31, almost 32 minutes long of mostly new Splatoon 3 conversation. We'll talk all about all the stuff, all the new changes coming to the game, our excitement levels, as well as some questions from the rest of you. But before we get into all that, let me remind you that this episode of Nintendo Noise is brought to you by our Patreon producers for the month of August. They are, of course, Christian Oliveria, Christopher Valenz, Gabriel Hasselmeyer, a.k.a. Asobi, Mary Berry, Smokey Shake, Wakahula, and Zaid Ida. Thank you all so much for your support over on patreon.com/flipscreengames. Y'all are real, still the real, and we appreciate your support of this and all of our fine programming. Thank you so much. And of course, there's a lot of other places you can go and get. If you're not a patron, don't worry. Well, we got you. You get all our content for free when it drops on all the places you get your podcasts, over on the YouTube channels. Of course, we have our brand new YouTube channel. Like I said, Flip Screen Live. Please go and give that a subscribe. Even if you don't watch our stuff on YouTube, even if you know you're going to come to the Twitch stuff live and you're not going to catch it, go give us the sub, because right now, YouTube is not sure if it's a real channel. They won't let me post any links in any of our descriptions. So go help me out, get those numbers up so that we can put links to our website in our YouTube bio there. That would certainly be helpful. But, of course, the place to get links to all of our stuff, flipscreen.games. If you want to find places where you can get involved, you can join our Discord. You can write into the show, questions@flipscreen.games. You can follow us on social media. However you choose to get involved, however you choose to be a part of the community. We thank you for tuning in to this episode of Nintendo Noise. So, I am going to step aside now, because it is Splatoon 3 conversation day. And, have I dabbled? Have I attended a Splatfest or two? Sure. Yeah.
Did you even attend one?
Yeah.
Which one was it? Was it ketchup and mayo twice? Did you do that?
I did that one. I also supported Pokemon Blue versus Pokemon Red. I did that one.
Oh, okay.
You
were blue, right?
Yeah, of course.
All right.
So, I've done them here or there, right? I've dabbled. I've splitted. I've splatted. I've been a squid. I've been a kid. But you two are like big Splatoon boys, the two biggest Splatoon fans that I know, united here on this podcast. So I am gonna just let you guys drive on this one. I'll chime in when I have my little comments, but you guys go ahead and do your Splatoon thing today, all right?
Yeah, really good direct, I thought. But we were talking off mic at the beginning. You know, there's a lot of stuff that's been chucked up on their website on just like an additional blog post, and I felt like they could have got it in if they didn't just teach us what Splatoon was again.
Yeah.
For the 1,000th time.
It was kind of weird that they spent so much time being like, okay, so if you've never played Splatoon, here's how it works. Here's all the game modes. It's like, dude, like if you wanted to do that for new players, couldn't you have made that like a separate video or something?
I mean, I guarantee new players who don't have this save data transfer thing, they're going to have to go through that initial onboarding section that they always do at the beginning of Splatoon games. Like on Splatoon 2, you had to use gyro controls for the first bit, and you couldn't turn them off until you got through.
And don't turn them off because you should use them. Absolutely
I really
should.
hope they've changed somewhat in this, and I don't think they will have. I want to be able to use the stick up and down as well as left and right.
That's fair, but I also don't mind.
I want them to just remove gyro so it's no longer the competitive standard.
No, that's the worst option.
I don't want to like move my controller to aim. It's so weird.
Up the sensitivity.
It just I don't know. It just doesn't feel natural to me.
It will if you let yourself get used to it.
Have you not tried it in any game yet? Like, the way I really enjoy it is stick for the big movements, and then gyro for the fine corrections that you would traditionally on a PC game have used a mouse for. I think it works so well.
Is there a way for me to like use a mouse and keyboard with my Switch? Can I do that? Can I
No,
for certain games. I think they added that to Game Builder Garage.
Does anyone on the internet have some kind of adapter that I can use a mouse and keyboard with Splatoon 3?
There are adapters that let you use like Xbox controllers and stuff. So I would imagine any X input device, if you can get like a X input mouse, then it would work.
We'll take the competitive Splatoon world by storm. Everyone will all use mouse and keyboard.
What was your initial impression on it, Chuy? Like, I thought overall it was a solid direct.
Yeah, I thought it was good. Definitely some stuff that's like, okay, yeah, we know. There's been a Splatoon game since year one of the Switch on the Switch, so some of it was just like, all right. I get it. You're trying to hit that lowest common denominator, right? Just whoever absolutely knows nothing about the game, and that's fine. Do that. But as far as like, people have been like kind of confused as to how a second Splatoon game is going to work on a console that already has a Splatoon game. And I think a lot of people went into this feeling like, is there going to be enough new stuff to really differentiate the game at all, And in that sense, it's like, oh man, they're showing all the basic stuff we kind of know. So it started off like, oh, I understand if people are worried kind of right now. But as it went on, I don't know. It seems like they've kind of packed it in with a lot of little extra things that I think will appeal to kind of both audiences, I would say. There's definitely some features I think stood out from the competitive standpoint, and definitely others that stood out from like the casual standpoint. So overall, I thought, yeah, there's a lot of cool new things here, and I think if people haven't played Splatoon yet, they're in for a treat. There's going to be a lot of cool things, but if people are out there itching for more, I think there's going to be plenty of like new stuff to play around with that'll make this game make more sense on the Switch, Yeah,
I agree, and I as nice as I think it would be for Nintendo to really go headfirst into the live service game, I feel like this is a good, like they're making good strides here. Mm-hmm. The whole commitment to 2 years of updates, every 3 months we're going to get new stuff, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Like it's nice to see them trying. like you could have just had a single Splatoon game and added all of these updates to it and improved upon it over time. But that's not their business model. That's not what they do. They put out boxed games and people buy them and people pick them up. And I think there's enough here for people who are fans of Splatoon to pick it up and have a really good time. And there's a lot of fan service as well, even in just the stages that they're bringing back. Some of the ones that didn't come to Splatoon 2 have made it into Splatoon 3. I'm really excited to play Museum Delfonsino and Mahi Mahi Resort for the first time. I've never played this 'cause I never played Splatoon on Wii U. So I was excited to see those.
Yeah, those are some of the actual, probably some of the actual fan favorites from there. I think the community learned its lesson after we got Moray Towers into
thank God that's
Splatoon
gone.
2. Yes. Hopefully we don't ever have to see it again. Nobody actually likes that stage. They memed it into the second game. But yeah, the stages that they did list out are ones that I'm like, yeah, a lot of people play these stages competitively still, at least the ones that are coming from Splatoon 2, like those Inkblot, Sturgeon, Macomart, and Wahoo World. Those are all like very heavily played in the competitive scene. I think Wahoo World gets a little bit more of more hate from that standpoint, but I think personally it's still a great level. So I'm happy with all of those. And then the 3 returning ones, you're totally right. They're ones that have not been in the game since Splatoon 1, and they're personally the better ones of that game, I think. And there were they didn't list them in particular, but there are some other stages that are returning from that game. One that was seen was like Flounder Heights. That one's a real popular one. I was terrible at that one. I hated a lot of it a lot of the time, but maybe I'll like it better this time around. But
is that one coming at launch? Because I know they announced 12 at launch, which we've got, which are the 5 new ones: Scorch Gorge, Illtail Alley, Mincemeat Meadowworks, Underton Spillway, and Hagglefish Market. And then obviously the ones we've spoken about: Museum Delfonsino, Hammerhead Bridge, Mahi Mahi Resort, Ink Blot Art Academy, Sturgeon Shipyard, Mechamart, and Wahoo World are all coming back. And they mentioned there's going to be the 3 post-launch updates, which I guess are the ones that you're talking about that we've possibly seen.
Did they say 3 post-launch updates are free?
Oh, maybe free. I thought
because I think it was free.
It was free. It was definitely free.
Okay.
Because they said that there would be post-launch updates every 3 months, and then they said that all that content would be free.
Right. Okay.
Over 2 years. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're looking at like roughly 4 updates a year. So
in
8
addition
updates?
to they also said there would be the sizable paid DLC. So it's those updates plus. Who knows what that timeline is, right? Because I guess
I'd be interested to know if the paid DLC they're planning to have multiplayer stuff in that. Because obviously the paid DLC for Splatoon 1 was just single player, and the ability to play as an Octoling, which looks like it's unlocked at launch on this. So that they showed that you could be an Inkling or an Octoling, which was nice. I never bothered to play as an Octoling.
My guess is that it's going to be, more multiplayer oriented since that stuff's already built in, right? And it's like, I wonder if, and we're going to talk about the 2-year timeline that they threw out at some point later on because we got some questions about it. But I'm wondering where that paid DLC fits in on that timeline, right? Is it like there's a 2-year free timeline between now and the DLC, and then the DLC comes, and then that kicks off kind of like, Splatoon 3.5 basically, or
2 to 4 or something, where years 3 and 4 kind of thing. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then like they can get some additional longevity out of the game rather than having what happened with Splatoon 2, where it came out and it had its couple years of support, and then it's still out there, people are still playing it, but like there isn't.
It was really weird. They handled it so poorly the way they shut that game down. Like they did the final Splatfest,
and then had another
whole thing. Then carried on adding content to the game, and then did another Splatfest, and then was like, oh yeah, there's another Splatoon game coming. And it was just like, this is just really weird. Why did you do that?
They had a lot of final Splatfest. There was like 2-3 different ones.
Yep.
And they just didn't want the game to end, is all.
Which I can understand because it's obviously a very popular game for them.
Yeah,
and has done really well.
Yeah,
for sure. And I feel like it's just you're at a point now with it where it's like, okay, so like how can you avoid that again, right? Like how can you make sure that this game is gonna have longevity? And I think that's the easiest thing, right? Is like putting out a paid update maybe 2 years later and having like a really significant new set of content. It looked like in that image they were teasing Marina and Pearl, so it's like maybe you'll go back to, you know, some of the like they'll bring back some legacy content.
Yeah, it'd be nice to go back to Inkopolis, like because we've got some of the stuff from Greater Inkopolis, and they've mentioned that the Hammerhead Bridge links the two areas,
right?
Like Inkopolis and Splatlands.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Just go to see the square again, and
I
go
think
back
so.
to that other area.
Yeah,
which is really cool.
I really think that's what they're teasing with that DLC, and I'm wondering if that'll be like, hey, like every other map or any of the other content that didn't make
That'd be really cool. Like have all the Salmon Run maps from that original, like from Splatoon 2. Go get the merch that was in Splatoon 2 as well, because I would imagine some of the clothing's not going to be there. Visit Krusty Sean.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just bring back all that legacy content, and then maybe add an additional game mode as well, or add some new maps alongside that, because they did say that it was specifically I forget the phrase they used, but it was like content heavy or something like that, right? Like they said that it was going to be a substantial paid DLC.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the exact word I mean.
Substantial? Okay, yeah.
Substantial, yeah.
Right? I remember them making a point of saying that it was going to be significant.
Large scale.
Large scale. Okay.
Scale.
Right. So like that to me implies that it's going to be, or not even implies, it's explicitly stating that it's going to be something meaty. So the idea that it would be something, you know, that does maybe kind of bring a whole other section to the map and bring back a bunch of
I'd like
cool
to
stuff
see that.
would be great.
I just worry that it'll be like the Splatoon 1 DLC, where it's like, yeah, that was a pretty substantial DLC because it basically added a decent single player mode to the game, because the Splatoon 2 single player was really lackluster, and it looks like the Splatoon 3 single player is basically the Splatoon 2 single player.
Yeah. It's looking.
I don't think I'm going to touch that with a 9-foot
The fact
pole.
that they said the words that it's going to be a good place for new players to learn the weapons and everything, I was like, great, they're doing it again. Just a crummy single player that's not really. I mean, I don't know. It's just crummy that they are going that route instead of just going like, all right, here's like tutorial short levels for people who've never played, and then here's a real story mode that you can play through. So yeah, it's a bummer that we're probably going to see that like cool Octo expansion thing happen again in the next DLC. And as far as like timing goes, honestly, I expect them to do it probably like next summer for that. They'll probably.
You think it'll be that early?
Yeah, I do.
Interesting.
Because I don't think the Octo expansion stuff was too late in the game's life, and I think once they announced that, they did say they were gonna provide some like extra updates beyond what they initially planned with Splatoon 2. But that's just off of memory.
It came out in 2018, so yeah.
Yeah,
a year later.
Yeah.
Wait, no. Oh yeah, no, that's right.
2017 would be Splatoon 2's launch, and then 2018, not too long after. So I expect them to kind of follow that same timeline.
Did Splatoon came out in the summer, right?
Yeah, it was a July game.
Yeah,
it was a July game.
So and this came out in June, so it's like basically exactly a year.
Yeah, it was a year later. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think that probably makes sense then. I also think it's a great way to get people to bump up to the expansion pack. I think they'll probably chuck it on that, whatever it'll be. Get people to subscribe to NSO for another year, because remember, you can't subscribe to the expansion pack monthly. That's locked in for a whole year up front. So we'll probably see it go over there, like we did with the Octo expansion for Splatoon 2. That ended up coming to the expansion pack as well, which I think is a good thing. I'd like to see more stuff come to that. But we also at the top, before we get further into the nitty gritty, they like showed a couple of new techniques like really early in the video, like during the turf war demo. So
Hmm.
there's this new squid surge which helps you quickly climb up walls, and a squid roll which allows you to jump and turn at the same time, and like when it glows it will repel enemy ink. So I wonder, I'm not sure how you perform those
Yeah.
techniques.
They've mentioned these techniques kind of throughout. The squid surge one was in, I think, the very first reveal of it. So we've kind of seen these things. They've kind of mentioned them. This is the first time they named them and told us what they are. But the squid surge, I don't think there was anything that quite did that before. The squid roll feels kind of like the dualies power, where
It
you
does,
just
yeah.
like quickly get out of the
You would
way.
land and like press B and you'd quickly dash out of the way, yeah.
Yeah, because dualies, like in general, have this like movement over a lot of weapons in the game that has been annoying. But I mean, people have worked around it and have been able to play against them pretty well now. But yeah, it just gave them a very clear advantage in terms of movement. So it was really cool to see these. I'm really excited that they're going to be usable in more than just that weapon. And it'll really change like how people are traversing each map and just figuring out cool ways to cheese the game in weird ways that we couldn't before. It'll be cool. Yeah.
Yeah, we got a whole year or so of balancing updates, I would imagine, before it
Oh yeah.
all gets worked out.
Uh-huh. I mean, I was kind of laughing because I was like, oh, they're talking about like content updates when they talk about like these 3 month gaps and stuff, but there will be plenty of like just balancing patches throughout every
Hmm.
every month. I'm sure we'll see a lot of them.
Yeah, I'm sure my favorite gun will probably end up getting nerfed within like minutes.
Yeah, Tri-Slosher. I remember Tri-Slosher was the weapon this happened to in Splatoon 2 very early on. The range was incredible on it. It killed in like 2 hits, and then you had armor, which armor has consistently stayed a must-have special throughout the entirety of Splatoon 2. So, yeah, that weapon got it. Literally, teams were playing 3 Tri-Sloshers and like one other weapon and kicking butt. So. Yeah, we'll see a weapon like that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine so, and I imagine it could be one of the new ones. So we saw stringers, which he's had before, which were the bows, and we've got
Hmm.
splatanas now, which is like
I
a katana that you can
Those
use.
Yeah.
fucking look awesome because I remember really liking the paint roller, and Chewy was like, "You got to stop with that shit. You got to use the bucket. That's like the only good weapon. Like you got to use something with some range."
No, I remember him telling you that you just needed to learn how to use the
That's
paint
also
roller, 'cause
true.
I
you were just
think
running
you,
around
Rolling, just
with the
rolling.
thing, and you
yeah,
weren't like splashing people
And I
with
and
you
it.
I
need to learn how to move is all that I said.
and well, either whatever, right? You got me on the bucket, but I like this because this I feel like it's got the length that I'm looking for, but also if you do the charge, you get the nice close range shots. I'm like, okay, I like this. It's a very versatile
Hmm.
weapon. This seems like my jam.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not for me. I hate charged weapons. I always hated the charger snipers. Whenever I got given it in Salmon Run, I was just like, oh god, I hate this thing. I never ever use a charged weapon. I just want to run around. Even though my guns have like terrible RNG, I just run around with them and I just shoot like crazy.
You gotta
Um,
learn to swim.
but we
That's
got
it.
those, and all weapons from the previous games are coming over, and that like that combined with the maps. We got a question from Zaid here, and he says after hearing that maps and weapons will be returning, do you feel like the game may be releasing half baked, or are the changes to gameplay modes enough to justify the three in the Splatoon title?
I think when Splatoon 2 came out, there were 5 maps. And I think they were all new, if I recall, but like
Yeah, they were. There
it,
was nothing that returned.
I think with that game specifically, it just kind of felt like half the maps added throughout were old and the other half were new. So it kind of felt like, I don't know, I felt like that was a little bit half baked. Where I was like, okay, I guess, I mean, there's a lot of reworking that has to be done between the games so the map can come back in the new one. But outside of that, I was like, it's an old map. It's not as cool as what a new map would do. I think the updates were a little bit more frequent in Splatoon 2. I think they were probably like monthly or so with that game.
I don't think they're as extensive as they're promising for this, though, because they are promising like an entire catalog. So it sounds like the old catalog's going to go away. You have a chance to buy all of these items for a limited 3-month period. Then that catalog's gone for good. And you can buy the summer catalog, because she mentioned in the voiceover, like, get it while you can, like you want to make sure you get everything from the catalog. So I interpreted that as is going. So you want to make sure you get what you can get.
Yeah, which, oh man, if I've learned anything from Nintendo Switch Sports, it's gonna take over my life. I literally still to this day spend way too much time on that game because every single week there's something going out of commission, and I'm like, great, gotta get these outfits before they're gone. But I mean, we haven't reached the point yet where we're seeing stuff repeat in that game yet. I'm hoping it does eventually repeat. Because I don't know, the day I miss one, I'm gonna be sad. But yeah, I think in general with this, like, we're already starting off the game with like a bunch of modes already unlocked. I think Splatoon 2, when it came out, we didn't have Clam Blitz at launch. That was added later on. We only started with the 5 maps, so having 12 from the get-go is already like a big change that will provide a lot more variety, I think, in the beginnings of the game than people are used to. 3 of those returning maps are ones that haven't been on Splatoon 2, so those will be completely new to this game. So you might as well just say you have like 8 new maps on the Switch, right? So
it feels a lot less half-baked than I feel like Splatoon 2 felt like when it came out, and I wouldn't have said that about...
Splatoon 2 felt really half-baked to me.
And
Splatoon
like
2 was bare
and
when
like,
it came out.
I don't necessarily remember feeling that way about it at the time, but I feel like I also didn't play it as much as you two. But like, I think you compare that to this, and this feels a lot more fleshed out. I honestly think the only thing about it that I don't like is between this and the like life cycle that they've like actively discussed now before the game is even out. I just can't help but wonder why this is a boxed game. You know, like I feel like Splatoon should just be it
should just be Splatoon live
service game.
Like Fortnite,
yeah.
They're not ready to take that jump. I don't know. I'm wondering when they will.
And I think you're right that's the answer, but like that to me feels like a bad answer, because it's like, I mean, you look at like every other game in this space that has made this pivot. It's better. It's better for the business, and it's better for the player base that actively wants there to be new stuff to do all the time. And like, I know you guys just said that Splatoon 2 was bare at launch, right? And I know that there's a huge audience of people who play Splatoon every single day, and there's nothing for them to do. They're just doing it because they like the game enough to keep playing. But like, there's no reason to do it anymore, right? There's no season pass. There's no new content. There's no new maps. There's no, there's nothing. It's literally just for the love of the game, which speaks to how good the core gameplay is. But it's like, building the free-to-play ecosystem around it.
About a free-to-play thing, like I really do, because the amount of merch and like consumable things in this, I worry that it would just become too much.
There are so many games that I think Nintendo has that would work, that would make a lot of money if they were free to play.
And this is one of them.
I worry about those games because they're ones I really like. Like, I love Splatoon, I love Animal Crossing. They would make so much money if they just like went that route. So, but like, I mean, to some extent, I'm like,
got to make an absolute fortune, right?
But like, I feel like when you're talking about something like Animal Crossing, like I could definitely see the potential of something like that. But it's like with multiplayer, it's such a proven model at this point, right? Like, there's so many examples of how to do it in a way where it doesn't feel scummy. And like, as much as like we sometimes take Nintendo to task for being a little nickel and dimey. I don't feel like they're like that with DLC. Like, I feel like with DLC, their DLC is generally cheap for how much they give you, right? You think about like how much the Mario Kart 8 expansion cost.
Yeah, that's like the deal of the century.
So much fucking content.
Literally doubling the amount of tracks you have for less than half of the price.
Yeah. Right. And like that to me feels good. And it's like, I think if they applied that same level of like, hey, like this is going to free to play and like there are going to be microtransactions, but like you can buy everything with currency that you earn from playing and you don't feel super limited by that. Like, and do it in a way where, like,
they've practically got. I think they must have looked at other games because I think that's where the 3-month season thing comes from.
It literally feels like a season. It feels like a season pass. Like it feels exactly like that.
The last night before the direct, I was just like, and it felt confirmed after I saw that they weren't adding League at the very beginning of this. But I was like. Yeah. I've played Mario Strikers. I know they tried out this season thing with Mario Strikers where they're like, oh yeah, every week there's a new season of this going on. So you can do as much as possible in that week to get as high as possible. And then it just starts over again. And maybe you're higher in the rankings. Maybe you're lower in the rankings next season. But yeah, I was like, oh, I think they're going to play with that with Splatoon. And lo and behold, I still think they are. They haven't like... I guess they've kind of said it with a slight mention of seasons happening, but yeah,
it's
I don't
just
know.
like
I think they're playing with it.
I feel like you look at like Fall Guys and like the way that they do the free to play thing, and I could easily see that working for Splatoon, where it's like, oh, like I think the only thing that's weird about it is that gear has stats. I think if they changed the way that worked, where like all gear was cosmetic and your stat points
and the abilities you could get for just anything. It's like you just pick the ability rather than picking the gear that had the ability on it.
Right.
It kind of is now though.
Right, because they have that whole thing where you can respec everything anyway, and
they had that anyway with merch, and it still mentioned chunks on ability chunks on it. So I wonder if it works in the same way that it used to. That you have to scrub it and swap it out.
The big change that they made here is that all of the clothing in previous games, the main ability that it had was locked. There were the opportunities to buy that same clothing with different main abilities, but now even that is customizable. Like you can change that out, and that was never able to be done before. So now, like all the clothing is truly like just clothing. Like you can just put anything on and eventually swap it all out, so it's whatever. So honestly, the Fall Guys thing would work,
right? Like, why not just do that, right? And like, how easy would it be to be like, okay, like here's the next season pass, and you've got a month or however 3 months to do this, and it's 50 levels, and at the last level you get a Yoshi skin, or you get a Mario skin, or a Zelda skin, or a Link skin, and like. Just do some cool stuff like that, you know? Like we already have that kind of thing baked in to some degree, right? With like Splatfests and being like, if you win, you get this piece of merch and this and that. Like all you have to do is tie some of those things to a season pass that is like affordable, and I really feel like that would work so well. And like there'd be people who would be resistant to it on some level because it's like you are used to everything just coming a la carte with the game, but like I don't know, I feel like it would feel better to spend there's one every 3 months and say it's like, I don't know, what, $3 or $5 a season pass, you're spending like maybe 15 to 20.
Way more. They should be way more than that. They should be like $10 a piece.
But
like they are on most other games.
But say Nintendo is like, oh, we don't want to, you know, like they want to do the whole like we're giving you more than you're paying for thing. Say it is even is $10. Like if you were paying that much to engage with it, but you were getting so much more game out of it and so much more like, you know, of that like active community base and like all the stuff that you get with the whole free to play, anybody can jump in, anybody can, you know, pick it up and try it. I feel like Splatoon has so much potential to succeed in that space, and it's a bummer that Nintendo isn't willing to experiment with that model more with one of their.
Well, they kind of have. They're experimenting with it with their mobile games, but I mean, I'm not convinced that they're happy about it at this point. I mean, sure, their mobile games are far less popular than all of those, but I think Nintendo's always like really careful about those types of moves when they do them, and it's at the point where I'm like, how long are these mobile games even going to keep going? Because they seem to be pulling out of that completely. They're not working on too many new ones.
Pikmin Bloom still going? Is that one still?
It still exists.
Apparently, it got some sort of update like last month.
If they could keep that going till the end of 2022, that'd be great.
No, I need them to kill it before the end. But yeah, like I don't know. I guess I just feel like they're not completely convinced with those models. I don't know what they're going for as far as it, but yeah, I'm waiting for it. I feel like it should happen. Like I'm not against it.
I would just love for Nintendo to headhunt a couple people from like some key other studios, right? Like maybe some like folks from like I'm looking at like Multiverses and how successful that is in its open beta. The game hasn't even hit 1.0 and it's like the most played fighting game in the world right now. And like the one of the lead developers on it is somebody who worked on League of Legends at Riot, and it's like you can see and like one of the other systems designers worked on Call of Duty, and you can see the DNA of those systems and those games in this. And it's like I'm looking at it and I'm like, why is Smash not like this? Why is Splatoon not like this? Like why
I don't think it comes down to them not having the talent to do it though. I really don't. I think it comes down to a culture thing.
Yeah.
And I can kind of see some like conflicts maybe even within the design of this game, because you see the one to shift to that seasonal model with these 3-month cycles, and you get updates and you get new weapons and new content added to the game, and the shift away from the weapons now, right? They're not bought with the same currency that they were bought with in the previous game. And if it was a case that you could buy the coins and you could go shopping and buy everything else, buy all the cosmetics with the coins, but the weapons were locked with this new Sheldon license that you could only get by leveling up and getting experience in the game and unlocking the weapons and making sure that you are of the right level and of the right rank to use that weapon. You can kind of see that working in a free-to-play game as well, because that's the one thing, the weapons, that gives you that advantage.
Yeah, for sure. And maybe no, sorry, go ahead, Chuy.
I'm also remembering a while back I did read a story that Nintendo did purchase at least NCL, the Nintendo of Japan, right? They did purchase some land and are working on expanding their development offices. So I don't know, maybe it is something we see in the future from them now that because I mean that's going to take work. That's going to take like people who are constantly working on the game, and that's going to take away from some of their other projects at the moment. Like they have other games they want to be working on. They have other ideas and things that they want to come out. So I don't know, maybe they're working on those offices so they do have a team that can be dedicated to games like this and be able to provide those types of service games, because as of right now I haven't seen them be too Splatoon, I would say, has been the only one that's been successful in that form, whereas like other games like Animal Crossing, the updates just came out really slowly. People weren't feeling like it was coming out as fast as you want them to and that sort of thing. So I don't know.
I think part of that was because we were all playing that in the middle of a pandemic, and we were just like
we had
gobbling it up.
That was all we were doing, right?
Yeah. we were not spoon feeding that slowly like that game is designed to be played. We were just going all out. I was time skipping and doing like all sorts.
That's true. And maybe Nintendo learned that. Like, yeah, the timing was letting us really take in the game at enormous amounts of time of our days during that point. But maybe Nintendo learned from that. They're like, oh, we're gonna need the people and the resources and the power to make those updates come out more quickly for everyone.
Yeah, I feel like part of the benefit of the kind of like free to play, like, or just like we have a team that's constantly working on this game thing is like you can respond to popularity, right? And I feel like you look at Animal Crossing, and I bet you Nintendo is kicking themselves that they weren't able to capitalize on that even more, right? And that like they're like, oh my god, we have all these people who are playing and they're activated, and now what? You know, and it's like it's interesting because like I think that there are a lot of games that just don't fit that model, and like we've seen a lot of single player games try to do the microtransaction thing, try to do some of the free to play stuff, and like we've shown that doesn't work in single player games for the most part. But with multiplayer games, it really contributes a lot to their success because it just makes them accessible, and people want to spend money on games that they like, right? And like once you get people in the door, like there are always going to be the whales and the rest of the folks that subsidize it for everybody else. And I feel like it would be so great to see them be able to continue to learn from some of those other examples, because I think you're right that they are, but it's that glacial speed that Nintendo moves at sometimes, and it's like, man, like I want to see them strike while the iron is hot and make Splatoon a bigger thing than it is, you know? But they also have a lot of online issues they got to figure out too, so that's a whole other conversation.
I think there's arguments either way for like the free to play angle, because they have some of their most successful game is a fully paid game, Mario Kart, and everyone buys it and plays it online, and they buy the DLC, and no one really cares about that going free to play. And if it was free to play like Mario Kart Tour, they could have added more and more tracks more quickly. People would have paid for the tracks like as and when. They could have followed the exact same model they did with Mario Kart Tour as like a full Mario Kart game on Switch.
Right? Like the game would just have made more money and there would be more content, right? Like not only would they have had a better, more successful product on their hands, we would have 2-3 times as many Mario Kart levels or something, or more characters or whatever, right? And like, who doesn't want that, you know? And I think as long as there's the right balance for a game like that, it really extends the longevity of it, right? And you're not just like, oh yeah, I love Mario Kart, but it came out, you know, imagine if you're somebody who bought it in 2013, right? Like, you're like, yeah, I've been playing this game for 10 years. Like, I'm over it, you know? And like, you wouldn't feel that way if they had a new, you know, a new pack of levels and characters every year since it came out. And the game would have made, what, 10 times as much money probably? You know, like, who knows, right? It's interesting to think about. And, like, I hope Chuy's right, that they see that and that they are trying to, like, create more teams internally that can support games long term. And, you know, we know there's like that whole thing where they've been relying a lot of on a lot of contract work, and you know, I think it's probably time for them to expand their teams and like find ways to make these games stick around longer, so that we're not waiting, you know, 3, 4, 5 years between entries and having long stretches where it's like, hey, Splatoon is hot, but it's not Fortnite, it's not, you know, it's not Apex Legends, it's not one of those games that just sticks around forever unless you're like a diehard Nintendo person. And I think it could compete with a lot of those kinds of games if it wasn't this prestige $60 product that you needed to buy into.
I hope so. It is a big shift for them, but yeah, I think all three of the platform holders have struggled with this big shift to free to play. The other two have obviously bought their way into it by buying Bethesda and Bungie, so they've got those teams to help them in that shift to free to play. But Nintendo don't usually acquire or make big acquisitions in that way. So hopefully Chuy's right and they are building out the teams, because I think Splatoon was a ripe candidate for their first live service game. And it sounds like it sort of is, but it's got a price tag on it. But that was the same way that Destiny was at the beginning.
Overwatch
Destiny
too, right?
Out.
Overwatch worked that way.
Overwatch started like that too.
So maybe it goes free to play further down the line, and they do that shift.
Yeah, maybe there isn't a Splatoon 4, right? And on the next console we get a platform and it lives for the whole generation the way that like Smash does, right? Like, why not? It's interesting to think about for sure.
But I want to talk a little bit more detail about Sheldon and his new licenses. How do you feel about the shift to that, Chewy? Because I was actually really happy that you can buy the guns that you really want before he wants to give them to you. Because I hated playing the game with that stupid junior splat gun for a while.
I like it personally because even in the previous game it was like every level kind of unlocked a selection of weapons for you, so you
Yeah.
couldn't even see like what was coming up next or anything. So eventually, people leveled up pretty quickly and were like, all right, you can get this at this level, so save your money, kids. But I mean, by then you have plenty of money to buy them. But yeah, this system is going to be way better for anybody who like really wants to get a certain weapon or likes playing certain things or really wants to try out like specific weapons too. So I love it. Just the fact that you can buy things ahead of time, you can see them all. That's perfect. That's how it should have worked from the beginning, honestly.
Yeah, I was really happy about it. And you mentioned trying weapons out. How did you both feel about the fact that there's something to do in the lobby now? Like there's the test range and you can run around and actually shoot things while you're waiting for people.
Love that. Love the ability to actually make a party. Love the ability to join a friend who's already in matchmaking and just jump into a party with them. Like, unfortunately, I think a lot of these things are things that they're things we shouldn't be excited about. They're things that should have been in Splatoon 2. But hey, I mean, if the worst thing we can say about this game is that it addressed all of the complaints we had about number 2, that's pretty good. Like that's a good place to start at least. So I'm really stoked about that.
Yeah, this is stuff that this is how it should have worked, but it's really cool that it's stylized in a way that makes sense for Splatoon and everything. So
It was so weird. When they were like, next in the lobby, ghosts. I was like, what the fuck? And then they're just like, oh, it's your online friends as 3D holograms, and you can just like join them in a battle, including turf war. And I was like, what? I can be on the same team as my friend in turf war, and we can like always
on
be on
purpose?
the same team on purpose, and I don't have to be like, right, okay, I'm going in now. Click, 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 go, join. Oh, I didn't make it in time. Okay,
Yeah.
you carry on, and I'll see you in 3 minutes' time. It's like it's so infuriating, so frustrating.
Custom
that
games
the only place
too.
you could play with friends was in like League.
Yeah, and like the custom games stuff too, like makes that a lot easier. That you could like do, like if you've got an odd number of friends and you don't want to go online, like you could, you can make all those little like lobbies and everything. Like again, a thing I think we take for granted in a lot of other games. Something that's been around since like the Team Fortress 2 days, but again, it's for us here.
You could do the private. You could do the private lobbies in Splatoon 2. That's how they do the tournaments for them.
Oh, but really? And you had this much control?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, you could
Cool.
go in and choose exactly what you want.
I stand
corrected. They have expanded it somewhat in this one. Like, there's going to be an update coming out further down the line where you can set a keyword, like a hashtag.
Yeah.
So we could have hashtag flip screen, and if you search for hashtag flip screen, you could join it, which would be great for when we're streaming this on Twitch and we want people to join us for a 44 or something.
I wish this was in at launch, because since the beginning of time, Splatoon 2 has required you to friend request somebody, like literally add them to your Switch friend list before they can join you, even like in a private battle. So like every playing competitively, every tournament, it was just like, all right, what's your friend code? Let me go add you.
That's not going to be the case now though, because there's local connect, right? You can just connect locally. So I imagine they'll use that.
Well, I mean, there's still going to be online tournaments though.
Oh yeah.
Like most of them right now are online, and so for I don't know how long in this game, people are going to be like, all right, what's your friend code? Let me go add you on my Switch, and then oh, here I am. I've popped up. You can join my room now. And that's how it worked with private battles. Like, literally, you had to do that.
That's so nuts.
You could put a code to the room, but that was literally just so you could keep people who shouldn't be in there
1, 2, 3, 4.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 2, 2.
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
It ridiculous. But I'm really happy to see some of the lobby changes that they've added. You can also send notifications using the new multiplayer notification system that they've added. So like ping you and you can jump straight into the game. And there was a bunch of other stuff they
So
added
excited about
into
that.
the lobby. Like battle replays look really cool. Like you'll be able to go back.
This is
So you can
huge.
share and upload them as well. And I really wonder where they go. But being able to see from like other people's perspectives when they shoot you in the face and stuff.
I'm sure you can either share them to the app or to Twitter.
It says upload, but it doesn't say where it uploads to. It's like it's an upload button within the game. It doesn't save it to your console.
I imagine it's going to work the same way as Switch sharing does, though, right?
I don't know, but this is a huge feature for people, specifically like the competitive scene, so people can actually like replay moments and see exactly what happened, where the other team was set up to make that move that beat you last time, and then this is just like cool. We can actually analyze our footage in a way that's going to make a significant difference to our gameplay and learn something from it. So, because right now it's kind of hard to do that. Like, yeah, you can find, hopefully the person you're watching is streaming. You can go and find their perspective of it. But even then, like, that's the only perspective you're going to get. And even with like tournaments where how they're streamed is like somebody has control of the camera and can like swap between characters and stuff, but you're only ever going to see those perspectives, like the ones they swap between, like it's all set. But the fact that you can actually go back and see all of that, that's huge. I don't know. I didn't expect that at all.
No, I didn't either. It was really cool. The one thing I would love is just like an overhead camera where you can like zoom out and see the whole battle from above.
That is one of the views.
Oh, you can do that? That's really cool.
I bet
that's one of the views that exists in Splatoon 2. Like when you're a spectator in the game, like you do get a lot of different things.
I'm sure they need that for tournaments, you know, so that you can like actually view the action.
Yeah. So the spectator view, you get a lot of control there. But like, I don't know. There's even data that I would love to know as far as like how people open up in their matches. Like, oh, where's the area, like the most inked area in a map? Like where are people most likely to be? There's a bunch of little stats that I would love to have access to in the game. So I kind of wonder if that'll be possible. There and
get us all.
Yeah.
The other thing in that lobby area is the locker room, which was kind of weird. I was just like, I don't know. Like, fair enough.
I was very like confused by it. It's kind of like, what is like the practical application of this? And like, I guess it is what you said.
It's to find friends.
Friend people,
find friends you played with.
And then also there's just like the, you know, I forget the name of this team, but they're also the Animal Crossing team, right? So it's like, oh, there's an opportunity for you to like express yourself and like do this cute little like organization thing.
And also this, you know, started out as a free-to-play game clearly, and they want to sell you things with microtransactions to customize your locker, which would have been a perfect place to sell you stuff.
Would have been.
Yeah, this seems like just a fun little thing. I don't know. You can, because as of right now, like the bulk of the customization for your character has been like you can draw a little picture on Splatoon 2, and that'll show up when people run into you in the plaza area. But yeah, this seems cooler. Seems like you get a lot more that you can show off. But this feels like the little Animal Crossing part where you're like, oh yeah, you can decorate this. Doesn't do much, but it's something.
Yeah, it's cute. You know, it's fine.
Yeah, it's cute.
There's like a lot of cool stuff like that with the customization. Like they had the whole section on scustomization with some really cool stuff as well. It's like little stuff, but it's nice. It's nice to be able to feel like you have a little more control over your character.
And those splash tags felt straight out of Animal Crossing. Like you have the title that you can put on it, right? Like whenever you would go to someone's island, it would say like, "Oh, pizza arriving," and he's like the millionaire islander or whatever it is, and like that would all come up. But it's nice to see that there's like additional stuff going in there. Like you can change the emote that your Inkling or Octoling does at the end, and like you can buy all of this stuff from a brand new shop, which is opening. Like if you want to know where you get the items for your locker in the first place, it's at Hotlantis, where you can get like all the stuff for the locker rooms, the splash tags and things.
Mm-hmm. A lot of Nintendo games are kind of doing that. At least like the little title thing, it's showing up here and there.
Yeah.
I personally like it. It's just
They're
fun to have a funny name attributed to yourself.
they're really leaning into the dabs in this thing, huh? Jesus. Lots of dabbing.
Yeah.
Oh god. And another thing that's on the website that was not in the presentation, there's like a gacha element that you can spend conch shells at the shellac machine and you have like a chance to get like really good items there. Or like new splash tags. So I quite like that as well because I'm a sucker for a gacha. And if it feels as anywhere near as satisfying, the best one, Pete, that I've ever experienced is on Astro's Playroom, where you pull down that trigger on the dual sense and it like pulls down the handle.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's so good.
It's so satisfying. Yeah, that was such a fun little thing to do in that game. Was like discover like enough coins to get every single one of the little minifigures.
Yeah.
No microtransactions either. Just good, clean fun.
Yeah, that was like a fully free game. It was awesome. The table turf battle confused me.
Oh, the card game thing?
Yeah, like this would be a really cool real life thing. Like I would love these packs of cards I can collect, like I can do with Animal Crossing cards. And like maybe that's where it started, and then they added it into the game.
Yeah, I mean, and it might go there eventually. Don't get it twisted. I'm sure that they want that. I mean, think about it's like to me this reminded me a lot of Gwent from The Witcher, where like it started just as like an in-game card game, and then now it's like a legit game and it's its own spin-off. And I think it's a good idea. Like I'm interested in it. I like the idea of having something else to do. Maybe while you're like waiting for your friends to hop on, right? Or like, I'm streaming and like, I'm waiting for you guys to grab your Switches and get in a lobby. So I do a round of this or something or what. Like I could see how this adds another thing to just keep you in the loop, and I'm into that, and I like card games,
I like this because this is something that existed in Splatoon 1 and is kind of hidden in Splatoon 2, but Splatoon 1, because it was on the Wii U, you had the gamepad and everything, while you were waiting for a match to start, there were three different like mini game things that you would play on the gamepad itself. And one was like a little I forget what they called it, like squid jump or something, but you'd basically just be going up platforms as high as you can go. And if you fell, you'd fall into the water and you'd have to start over again, right? So basically that. And then another one was a rhythm game that you could play. And I forget what the third one was, but I know there was a third one. But this feels like, the team's kind of playing with that. I think Splatoon 2 only had the rhythm game, and it's really like, I think there's an arcade machine in the plaza, and that's how you access it. Not really something you can do while you're waiting for your match to start. But
no, the only thing you can do while you're waiting for the match to start is play with the music by like touching all the buttons and the sticks and things.
That's it. But yeah, this I like that they came up with like a new little game that you can play, and just the fact that there's like actual packs that you can get and cards that you can collect.
I think that looks so cool. Yeah,
and
I'm into it.
Definitely another thing that's like primed for a free to play kind of thing as well. And I want to use
a mobile game. That would have been a perfect like Splatoon mobile game.
Thank you for saying that, Steve. I'm going to use that as an opportunity to jump into this question from one of our Patreon supporters, Asobi, who wrote in and said, "Do you think that Nintendo will continue with Splatoon as it is now, or go down a more Mario-esque route with it, with maybe some spin-offs and a main game once a generation? I feel like Splatoon has so much potential visually and design-wise for spin-offs. I feel like this is their first attempt at that. Personally, right? Like this is the first extension of the Splatoon brand to anything that isn't Splatoon the game. And you could easily see this become a mobile game. You could easily see this become a spin-off where it comes out on the eShop and it's its own little thing. Who knows, right? Like the sky's the limit, I think. And maybe they're not thinking about it that way, but I feel like this to me shows that the thought is there at least, whether or not they follow through on it,
Yeah, this reminds me of like the conversation we had a couple weeks ago about like what games were Nintendo's top kind of games. Like what are Nintendo's top 5 games? And I do think Nintendo views it this way. I kind of made this argument in the Discord recently, but like if you look at the Splatoon Japanese Twitter account, it is wild how many more likes and like interactions those posts get than like the rest of Nintendo. If you look at those numbers, they're just like triple, quadruple the amount of what anything Nintendo of America posts at any given time. And
it's all about that ratio. They're just looking at it all day long, and they're just like, this is the reason our franchise is A-tier.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think the game is looked at by Nintendo as like a big thing. I think we're probably going to start to see spin-offs for it come out, and I'm sure they're out there messing with it in some way. So
I hope so. Like just the universe itself, like they've put so much time and effort. There's like 6 brands of clothing. There's like brands for the weapons. There's like all of this, all the visual stuff that Asobi mentioned. Like, I love being in that world. And if we could be in that world and not playing rounds of Turf War or Clan Blitz or whatever, and just be playing a different type of game, like this new Turf War card game, I think that would be really cool.
So I want to, before we get back to more of the direct stuff, we have 2 other questions that build off this one well. Before we get too much further away from it, because I don't think we'll probably end up talking about this angle of it too much longer, I want to pull this question from Sierra, a.k.a. Tamerwolf from the community, who wrote in and said, what are y'all's thoughts on the updates happening for 2 years after release and what it means for the Switch life cycle and next Switch model? So I think we've talked a good amount about like how we feel about the actual the timeline itself. But I think tying this to like Asobi's question in terms of like, do we see that mattering next generation, right? Like, do we think Splatoon could make the jump to be a more platform-oriented title, similar to a Smash, where we get one a generation and it gets supported the entire time?
What about one every 2 generations, like a Mario Kart? Like maybe it
Could be.
that. You know what? I think that's when it becomes the free-to-play thing. That's when it becomes that, and it's just you're playing Splatoon. I think tying this back to what Sierra was saying, I don't think there's gonna be a next generation. I think the next Switch is just gonna be the next Switch, and every game that plays on this Switch plays on the next Switch, and all of your content moves over, and it's just a more powerful or better model in some way. And so I don't think they really care. In 2 years, we're probably gonna have a new Switch by that point.
Yeah.
I think we're probably gonna get a new Switch announced within the next 12 months. And we already know there's Mario Kart levels being released all the way up to the end of next year.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think the next Switch is... I think Nintendo's looking at the Switch and saying, like, yep, we got it. We nailed it for this. There's no reason to change for now. Probably just make it stronger, iterate maybe slightly. But I don't know. I think, yeah, we're probably looking at the next gen of Nintendo console with the Switch just continuing. And I think that's great. I think that's great for them. I love it personally because I like that I was away for like a month this summer and I could just play my Switch wherever. It didn't matter that I was gone. Whereas I was thinking the whole time, I was like, man, I should have canceled Game Pass for the month because I wasn't here.
All right. So before we move off this question block, there is another one here that you mentioned, Chuy, right? Was a couple weeks ago. We had been talking about the top 5 Nintendo franchises and kind of like what is that S-tier, right, of the cream of the crop. And there was a whole dialogue in the Discord after that about how Splatoon should be on that list. And you were going back and forth with a couple members of the community. But One Up Mango definitely made like a very strong case for it in the Discord with a ton of really cool context. I do want to just pull this comment here. If you want to go see the whole thing, go check. It's in the hashtag Nintendo Noise channel in our Discord. And Mango said, I would argue that Nintendo Switch Online will not be an obstacle at all to Splatoon 3's success because all Nintendo needs to do is iterate on what Splatoon 2 did, and I have no doubt in my mind it's going to sell at least 12 to 14 million copies if they just practically make Splatoon 2, but better. Prior to the launch of Nintendo Switch Online, Splatoon 2 had already sold 7.47 million copies.
Yeah, and to be fair, like, I think selling 7.47 million copies is an argument against like Switch, like what Mango's trying to put forward, because those 7.47 million copies you didn't have to have online, and like you didn't pay for it, you just played the game, right? So if you've got to pay for the subscription and pay for the $60 game, you know, those two things alone, that's $120 of your hard-earned money gone if you're buying the expansion pack.
And then the DLC, right?
Yeah. And then the
well,
DLC coming.
If you have the
that's
expansion pack,
that
maybe comes out
that's
in the
like
wash. But
it's a big ask for people. But we don't know the exact numbers on Switch Online, I don't think. But I would imagine they're pretty high, and so I don't think it's going to be that big of an issue. I still think that Splatoon is one of those top tier franchises. I just don't know what we would knock off to make it a top 5, which is why it didn't make the list. But I think you could put it in there and say it's probably number 6 after everything that we mentioned.
Yeah, I could see it there for sure, if not in the 5.
It's in the 10, right? For sure.
Oh, hands down in the 10. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't know how well Splatoon 3 will perform with a Splatoon 2. I imagine it'll do fine, but I also kind of think it'll probably be better for Switch Online than Switch Online will be for Splatoon 3. You know, like, because you need it. You need it to
resub
play
again. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. People will resub again if they haven't been on it for a while. And I'm sure this game will get like a bunch of new players. It'll definitely get a bunch of returning players. I think a lot of people who play competitively are already switching over to Splatoon 3. They're going to be playing that game. But beyond that,
some of them before the rest of us.
Yeah,
at
some
an
of them.
invitational.
Oh, I should mention, I've seen tweets from some of the people who've been doing well in those. They had no idea. Or they're lying, or on top the other thing, I could see Nintendo doing this where they're like, they've reached out to specific players about this, and they probably can't say anything, so I'm assuming, I don't know. It was
did the
news
same thing
all
for
around.
Smash, right? They did the Smash Invitational. I think that was at E3. This one's at PAX West on September 5th. Being live streamed over on Twitch. I'm interested to see that. We had a question from Trendy Brandy about that as well, didn't we, Pete?
We did.
Yeah, sure.
Brendy wrote in and said, has Mr. Chuy Plays ever been to an in-person Splatoon event? I've only been to one for Smash and a few Pokemon ones, and I'm wondering if it's a similar culture. Pokemon is a good mix of friendly folks and quiet folks, where I'd say Smash is closer to that fighting game community style where light trash talk is expected, and you make bets and money matches on like every game. Is Splatoon somewhere in the middle?
I honestly don't know. I haven't been to one, an in-person event. I have a friend who's like gone to one of them. I think he was planning on going to one that's upcoming as of right now. It sounded like he had a lot of fun, though. It did sound like, I don't know, there's definitely like people who are kind of on the quiet end of the community, you know, and some that are more outgoing. So it sounded like a mix as far as that goes. But for him, he was also commentating during it. He was playing and commentating. So yeah, overall, he said it was just like a really fun experience to be there in person. And like, I don't know, there's just an energy to it. And I could tell when he was commentating too, that I was like, oh man, he's like way into it right now. So it was cool overall.
I've been to the UK finals for the Nintendo put on for the Splatoon Championships, and it was so much fun. I obviously didn't compete because I'm terrible at this game, but you would either go and like you could enter there or you were already qualified. But the energy like of the people spectating, like watching it, was really fun. Like there was all ages there. It was really like family friendly. It was really cool. It was a really great energy, and everyone was like super into it. Like everyone was like, oh, like cheering or like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened when like things happened in the game. It was really great. I had such a good time.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'd love to go.
We should go to PAX West. That's like
Yeah,
not far away, right?
it's doable for me. Yeah, I was actually after they announced that this morning, I was like, all right, I'll look into tickets. I'll see what what I can do. So I'm
That would be cool
interested.
if you went and like reported back. I'd be
Hmm.
interested to see how you liked it.
You're hosting. Don't forget. Get to the next thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, forgot about that. Yeah. Sorry. So the other like we the other modes they've got, we see a return of like the ranked mode. They've renamed it
Hmm.
Anarchy Battles. And we're
Yeah.
getting Splat Zones, Tower Control, Rainmaker, and Clam Blitz. There's some information about it, but basically that you can play as like solo or you can play with friends in the same way that you could on Splatoon 2, right? And there's some more info about like ranks on the website. But and what was more interesting to me was some of the new modes that they announced that aren't in at launch. Like we've got a new X battle mode for X rank players, which I imagine you'll be very interested about, Chewy. And
Hmm.
League battles not there at launch, which I thought was a bit weird.
Yeah. We mentioned it briefly, but I'm imagining that they are definitely like reworking League and how that works because as of right now, with the Anarchy battles, there's one that seems to be like the base ranked mode or whatever the new ranked mode is. That I think they're calling that Anarchy Battle Series, right? So that one single player, or at least you're going into it alone. You can't team up with anybody. Very briefly, they showed the text for it that said like win 5 battles before you lose 3, right? Like so that's the challenge that you have when you go and play that. I imagine that'll, obviously play a role into how the ranked system works and how that all goes. And then beyond that, they do have the Anarchy Battle Open, which seems to be like a casual ranked mode, which was kind of what they did with League in Splatoon 2, where it was like, yeah, you get like points and stuff for playing in this league and things, but it really didn't matter. It rotated every 2 hours, points reset and everything, so it was very short term. So yeah, it seems like with this game in particular, they're probably reworking what they envision for League and what it's going to do and how it works. So I'm excited to see what they do with that. So yeah, it may sound like something's missing at launch, but to me, I'm like, oh yeah, it seems like they've just renamed things a bit, and maybe that new mode is going to be something completely new or different.
I think you're probably right because reading on their website, it kind of feels like they've merged League and Rank because I
Hmm.
kind of forgot how League worked until you just reminded me. So it says Splatsville is also home to rank up battles, which you do in Anarchy Battle Series, and you have to put some points on the line. So you get 3 wins before 3 losses to successfully rank up, which is out of the 5, right?
Hmm.
But losing doesn't cost you the rank; it just costs you some points. So you keep your chin
Hmm.
up though, which is very different to how it worked in Splatoon 2. Like you had that orange thing that that you filled up, and it would get cracks in it. And if it got a certain number of cracks, then it would break. And if
Yeah.
it went below like a threshold on it, you would go down a rank. Whereas this way, you won't ever go down a rank. You'll just lose some points, so it will chip away at you being ranking up to the next rank.
Yeah. Well, I kind of don't know how to work. I think I'll have to see it. It's not making sense to me because I feel like people need to be able to de-rank because that's kind of the problem I feel that ranked has at the moment, where it seems like if you play long enough, if everybody plays long enough, they'll eventually funnel their way into X rank. um,
Well, I don't think they will because they also have on the website that they are going to be resetting ranks every 3 months.
oh, that
Um,
sounds
so
good.
so every 3 months, the ranks will be adjusted. So it looks like X is not in the game currently. It goes S and then all the way up to S plus 50. And then eventually I imagine X will make it into the game when they add the X battle. But it said that it will reset at least somewhat. So if you were at S plus 50, you'll go down to like an S plus 30 and you have to work up again. And I hope that it's balanced out a little bit better. But yeah, once you get into like a certain rank on ranked battles, it's quite difficult to get like knocked all the way back down. So I can understand the frustration of wanting deranking in there. Pete, are you ever going to get to a B minus? Do you think? Because me and Chewy sounds like our save data is getting pulled over.
We're already gonna be there.
I'm gonna have to work for it, I think. But I'll tell you what. I'm gonna work for it. I'm ready. I'm ready to really put in the hard work. I think to get to B minus. So
it sounds like it might not be necessary though, because there's also the Anarchy Battles Open, which is essentially just an open lobby. I just don't know if you have to be the same rank in order to play it. That wasn't clear from the presentation. But it'd be really cool if the four of us, us three and Sierra, could play a ranked battle, so we can actually play some modes other than Turf War for once. Because I think you'd really enjoy some of the stuff like I don't know if you played it, but like Clan Blitz is my favorite, and Tower Control I think you'd like.
Yeah, I am excited to get into some of those, and just I like the idea that we'll be able to like have a squad of 4 and just get in a lobby and play together. Like I think those things will immediately make me more likely to play the game.
Yeah. They'll be way better.
There was two other big things I want to touch on. Like, there's some small bits that we can talk about if you want, like the fact that saving like fits, they call them now, is like not locked to Amiibo.
Love that.
Have them. So you have like different loadouts essentially. There's like a photo mode and some other bits and pieces. And
for some reason, they decided to still make the Amiibo do that.
Yeah, it was really weird. The new Amiibo look great.
They're great, but it's really like they should have a different functionality now. They're useless. Like,
yeah.
Well, you can take a picture with them now.
Yeah,
in
photo mode.
Great.
The lobby. I was like, okay, yeah,
definitely worth it.
They are cool, but I like Amiibo, so
yeah, not a standout feature that anyone needs anymore. But Salmon Run, we got some new updates on Salmon Run, some new bosses that were shown, and we also got to look at like King Salmonids for the first time, I believe, which really changes up things. So when you near the end of a job, a King Salmonid might randomly appear, and then you've got to fire the golden eggs you've collected from the backpack on your back and like shoot them at the King Salmonid to try and knock it away.
Yeah, they do more damage, I think.
Yeah, so you got to do a lot of damage. There's a time limit, and then they'll go away. And we also got a glimpse at a new mode called Big Run, which it looks like it's going to be on rotation in the same way that Splatfests are. It said it happens every few months like a Splatfest, and the Salmonids are going to invade the city.
I love that.
And so
that seems like such a fun idea. I think that's going to be really cool.
It seems really cool that they've like... I feel like they're going to have a lot of potential with like changing which city they're attacking and stuff, because they pointed out, oh, this bridge connects these two parts of the city. So I think they're going to have fun with like those invasions in particular, because as of right now, like we haven't really been able to splat up the main city part. You're always like weaponless in those areas. And I'm like, yeah, just let us ink this place up. I want to see how far I can climb up on these buildings and stuff like that.
And like I could see it being a fun thing in the way that like seasonal events in Animal Crossing are, where you're like, oh right, like it's bunny day, so there's all these damn eggs everywhere, and it's like a moment, right? And like I love the idea of being like, oh, I went to get on to play some Splatoon, and oh no, like the city's under attack, everybody jump on right now. Like this is a moment you want to be a part of, because it only happens once a month or whatever, right? Like I like that. Like that's a good way to incentivize people to jump in.
Yeah, like the Splatfests are returning. We saw the new hosts, so Pearl and Marina are gone. They're back, I guess, at Inkopolis, and we've got a new band, a new musical trio called Deep Cut of Fry, Shiver, and Big Man. They do the news bulletins, but huge news. You don't have to watch them. They're like hidden behind clicking the L stick.
I love
so
it.
You can just like jump straight in and not have to listen to a word they have to say. That was like one of the big pain points of that game. That plus the fact that you can play with friends in turf war without having to do the stupid like, oh quick, jump in now. Were like the two biggest quality of life improvements I think they added to this game.
They're literally my favorite idols for that fact alone. That they don't just give us another 10-minute wait time to get to actually playing the game. I love it.
Yeah.
Also, I love Big Man.
Big Man's great.
Big Man rules.
So
Big
cool.
Man love all around.
We love Big Man. Also, I loved. I don't know if y'all saw this like on Twitter, where people were talking about what's I don't is it Fry? Yeah, Fry's the one with the super big forehead, and everyone was joking about how everybody like would complain about how I think it was Marina had the big forehead. They're like, nah, they went even harder this time. Fantastic.
I haven't seen that. That's funny. But they told us all about the new Splatfests. So they've changed things up a little bit because there's now 3 teams you can pick from rather than just the 2 that was in Splatoon 2. The first half of the Splatfest is a 4v4 turf war battle like it was normally, just 2 teams. But then the second half, it turns into 3 teams vying at the same time. There's one leading team in the center of the stage, and then 2 players from each of the other teams are kind of working together to try and take over the lead in the middle and knock out the currently winning team. So I really liked it as a concept. I thought it was really cool. I'm interested to see. The first one is going up on the 27th of August, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Pacific, which is the Splatfest world premiere. It's like their test fire that they usually do. And it's rock, paper, scissors is the theme.
Yeah. I'm pumped for this. This is the first time in a long time I've been pumped for Splatfest, but mostly it's for that change where the teams are, I guess it's going to be 12 people, right? They've always been like 8 players.
It still is 8. It's 4 from the winning 8. And then 2 and 2.
2 and 2, yeah.
Okay.
It's really weird.
Man, that's not going to be fair.
It's cool though. It's a lot different.
The 2 and the 2 work together to try and knock out the team in the middle. They've got to like get rid of the what do they call it? The ultra signal from the center of the stage where the currently winning team is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. We're gonna have to play it to find out. But I would imagine it's balanced and feels okay. I trust them.
It's the end of this month. Pretty close.
I'm excited. I like that. I think that's a really interesting, different way to go about it, and like it feels like a meaningful change. And I think that's one of the things that, like, to take it back to Zaid's question earlier about, like, you know, does the game feel half-baked? I think no, right? Like, I think, like, there is a lot that's actually new, and they've addressed a lot of the common complaints, and I feel like they've actually, you know, tried to iterate where they could, and I think there's a lot to be excited for here, and that's definitely one of the highlights. I mean, we'll see how it plays out when we actually get our you know, our tentacles on it, as it were, but I feel like that feels significantly new and fresh in a way that excites me.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there that I think feels new and fresh. Like, it depends what angle you go from. Like, Chuy was obviously really excited about the battle replays. There's that new card game that's in there. There's all the quality of life improvements, like the loadouts, the new lobby changes, the changes to Salmon Run with like the big run and the King Salmon. They added a lot to this game, I think, and that plus combined with the 12 maps at launch, 8 of them which are probably going to be completely new to the majority of Splatoon players unless they played on the Wii U. I think there's enough here for everyone. I left this presentation super excited. I was already really excited about Splatoon 3, but I was kind of apprehensive a little bit because we hadn't really heard anything. We didn't really know what the game was going to include, and they just laid all their cards on the table.
Yeah. They did so much. I'm pumped. I think it feels like they've figured out kind of the structure of Splatoon with Splatoon 2, like really solidified it. And with this one, I think they just like played around with it a lot to tweak it, make it better, and hopefully it comes out to just like a really good package for us. It lets us easily connect to each other, lets us easily like just play the game. I don't know. There's so many little things here that I'm like, sweet, this is so much better than it was before. There's a lot of downtime, surprisingly, in Splatoon where you're like, all right, logging in, got to watch all this news. Now I'm in this lobby, just, twiddling my thumbs to change the music because that's the only thing. But now you're like, cool, I'm waiting for my match to start. I can look at all this different stuff going on. I mean, I'm hoping that ups the quality of like the matchmaking as well. Because that's another issue where once you get to a certain level in X rank, I mean, I'm hardly there. I'm at the low levels of X rank, but like for the people who are like really high up there, it's really like there's only risk involved when they play, where they're like, oh, when I finish this match, I get +0 points or +1 points, but if I lose, I'm like -40, So. Yeah, I don't know. The quality just needs to be improved in that sense, where people can go into lobbies that they will actually benefit from instead of just like take a big hit to their score.
Yeah. Yeah. I like where do you land on it, Pierre? You're picking this up day one anyway, I guess.
Yeah. I it's funny because we talked about it a little bit earlier about how I feel like this direct, I didn't know who it was for. Because as somebody who already likes Splatoon, I was already interested in Splatoon 3, and a lot of what they showed, I was like, cool, this is great new stuff. I'm very excited about this. I'm engaged. But then they also like explained how the game works, and I'm like, oh, all right, I didn't need all this. So I hit a point about halfway through this where I was like 15 minutes in, I'm like, I don't really need to watch any more of this. Like I'm already excited for this game, and this feels like for the fans like you guys who are noticing all the little minutia, I feel like there's so much here where like if I was like a diehard fucking Splatoon person, I think I would have been like, this is an incredible direct. But as somebody who is more casual, I was kind of like, oh, like they got so in the weeds, but also were giving me like the 101. And I'm like, these two vibes are creating friction for me. So like, I don't feel more excited necessarily after this, but I'm very, very ready to jump into this game day one and play with y'all. And I think it's going to be a ton of fun. And I think, like you said earlier, like the quality of life stuff is the name of the game for me. The fact that they took all the really weird, like obtuse decisions that turned me off from playing the game in a more active way. I feel like now that those are kind of out of the way, I feel like I'm going to be way more inclined to be like, oh, like I'm online and I see Steve's ghost, I see Chuy's ghost, whatever, right? Like, let's jump into a match, right? Like, and then like shoot you a message on Discord, right? And be like, oh, let's hop on and play a couple games. Like, that's what I'm looking for, Like, I need it to be as easy as it's been for me to jump into, multiverses these last couple of weeks and rattle off a couple matches with whoever my friend is that's online, right? Like, that's the experience I want from Splatoon 2. I want it to be a regular part of my digest, and for it to do that, it's got to just make it easier to play. And I feel like if you can say anything about the changes they've made here on Splatoon 3, it seems like they've made it easier to play. So I'm very excited by that. I think this game's going to have some real juice in the back half of the year. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Awesome.
Here's hoping I hit B-.
Doesn't matter anymore. Doesn't matter
really
anymore. You can just
matter.
play with us.
Yeah. I wonder when they feel like they don't have to explain the game anymore. Because can you imagine watching a Pokemon Direct and they just explain what Pokemon are and like how you catch them and
here's how Pokemon
how you
battles
battle them?
work, right? Like
you'd be like, what the fuck? Why are you telling me this? Like, there's been 1,000 of these things. I know.
Yeah. Never.
But
They can always explain it.
Well, I'm handing the keys back to you, Pete, to land the plane. I guess the sticks. Here you go.
Okay.
Land the plane.
All right. Thanks, buddy. So thanks, everybody, for tuning into this week's episode of Nintendo Noise, a Splatoon podcast. If you guys are excited for Splatoon 3, make sure you write in and let us know what you thought about today's Direct, where your hype levels are at, and if you are going to be jumping on day one to play with us, because you know we're ready. We're hyped for this one. Come be a part of the community. Get your links. They're at flipscreen.games. Come find our Discord. Come right into the show. Come be a part of one of our Twitch streams. Remember, if like I said at the top, Sierra will be back next week, full-time host. Show her some love. Go check out the new YouTube channel, Flipscreen Live. We'll have a link to it in the description down below. Go subscribe. And flipscreen.games to find links to all the other places that you got to find us on the web. Of course, Patreon support if you want to go above and beyond. We appreciate you, all that good stuff. You know the drill by this point. So, for the crew, I've been Pete. He's been Chuy. He's been Steve. We'll see you next week, Squid Kids. Okay, and now it's the end of the show, and I still haven't added the music, but I think if I throw to Chuy, he will actually sing, unlike Steve, who just leaves me hanging. Now, Chuy, you sing.
What up, everybody? Let's do some editing, yeah.
See, he did it. See, Steve, it's not that hard. You just got to pick up the...
Yeah, see, you two are, like, musically talented. I'm useless.
You got to pick up the baton, buddy,
Is this really episode 52?